and this is something we skipped last week because we ran out of time. How do you deal with quote unquote bad luck? Like something happens out of your control. We all say, okay, you make your own luck, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes things just happen. How do you deal with adversity when it just pops up and it's just like, what happens?
I don't want the new listeners to think I'm being a smart aleck, and I don't want our habitual listeners to think that I'm being really, curt. I have a mantra that I live by with all my clients, and that is, it's not what happens to you, but how you handle it. And before you turn the show off and go, yeah, that's great, whatever, think about this. You getting pissed off about whatever went against your grain, you got in a car wreck. Well, that sucks, but getting pissed about it isn't going to reverse the damage to your car. It isn't going to reverse the headaches that are about to ensue. So very first thing is get control. Get control of the situation, because you and I have talked about this off the record. I don't believe in goals and objectives when I'm dealing with athletes, because their goals all the same. I just want to be fast, or I want to be a champion, or I want to win a series, or I want to win this or that. But guess what? That's the same for everybody. Goals and objectives are the same. What I want you to focus on are your frustrations. So in this case, you get in a car accident. Getting pissed isn't going to change the car accident. Get in control of the situation. Now put this in the realm of racing. Learn to control the narrative. Right now, as we're talking, the GNCC races have just begun. I recently picked up the beginning of May, Mike Witowski. We've already had an complete decompression this morning on what our strategy is for the race weekend for today. Okay, we're going to race the strategy because we can't control other people. We say control the controllables. So that's what we're doing. You can't control the fact that the car accident happened. So why give it any more energy and attention? Get in control of it. Call your partner, let them know you're okay. Be proactive, get on the phone with your insurance company. Let's bring all these frustrations to a quick close. Let's say you got physically hurt. Find the best physio, find the best whatever.
And it's like Tom Brady says, I always go back to Tom Brady because he's the best quarterback to ever play the game.
Yep.
You throw an interception, it sucks and you're pissed and now you're behind, but you have to just have a short memory. I'm not saying you don't digest how it happened. Say that cornerback cut over or somebody made a play and why you threw the interception. Don't forget why, but forget the emotional part of it. Break it down, boom, it's done, move on, and then just move forward. And that's the best way.
Add one more component though. How often have you seen Brady blame somebody else?
Never.
He always takes responsibility for it. And I think that goes back to what we said earlier in the show is everything in life, a car accident isn't your fault, but getting pissed off and blaming everybody else, even if it's their fault, isn't going to get you back to healthy and get your car back.
Well, and
get on top of it.
Going one step further, just because I'm going through a red light and somebody hit me and it was their fault 100%, right? Does it mean that I'm completely without blame? I still look at myself and I go, okay, even though they made that mistake, could I have seen them? What could I have done? Is there anything I could have done? Yeah. And you have to analyze from your perspective and break it down. And if you look at it and say, there's nothing I can do, it happens, deal with it. And if there was something you could do, change it.
Well, I joke with you all the time. I was married for 25 years and went through a really ugly divorce that lasted way longer than it should have. And I got to a point where I was going to counseling while I was married because I have thick enough skin to say when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I just need you to be able to show me where I'm wrong and I'll make adjustments. I tease Michaela all the time. I'm very trainable. Okay. But here's the key. What I learned is if I'm mad at somebody, the first thing I ask myself is, what have I done to contribute to that situation? So if I've offended you, Chris, and you're mad at me, and I'm like, well, fuck you, Chris. I didn't do, whoa. What have I done to make Chris disappointed in me or mad or whatever? And own it. Now, we may agree to disagree, and that's cool. That's where I think our country, our world is getting to a point where nobody can say, you know what, we can agree to disagree, or you're entitled to your opinion, but I just don't see it that way. But still shake your hand, give you a bear hug, and be cool with it. Okay. It doesn't make you an asshole. It doesn't make you a dick. It doesn't make you all these things. We go into name calling and confrontation, but guess what? We still haven't solved the issue. So if we go back to the car accident side of things, I can't in my brain reverse the accident to keep it from happening. I can change certain things in training so that, Chris, you don't get exposed to heat exhaustion because you drink cold fluids. We watch our calorie intake. We know what your sweat rate is. I can back up the process so that that doesn't happen again. But you find out that your dog has cancer That's a pretty hard thing to figure out, but you're not responsible for it, but you are the way that you handle it. So the first thing you do is you go get the best advice, you get the best resources, you get the best. So now you're in control of the environment, you're in control of the situation. And I think that's what becomes very, very powerful at the elite level of racing is they understand at the end of the day, things aren't going my way, but I've got to find a way to get them to go my way. I think this is why you saw somebody like a Cooper Webb tapping out of Yamaha, Chad Reed topping out, because they tried. Think about Chad Reed in particular, because he's not racing currently. So we all remember him when he was in his heyday. What was Chad known for? He knew what he wanted. And if he got, like when he was working with Gosler, okay. No, was he with Gosler?
He was for a little bit.
Yeah.
After Ricky.
I'm thinking Ricky, excuse me. Think about with Ricky and Gosler. You know, Gosler knew what Ricky needed and made it work. So those two together. Well, you take that to, let's go back to Chad, and you know what you need and you get met with resistance. A champion's like, I've got to remove myself from this situation because it's not going to get any better. That's exactly what I'm trying to illustrate is, yes, we look at it and go, oh, he's changing colors again. Well, because a champion doesn't sit around and, like you said earlier, a Damon Bradshaw that goes, you know what? I'm not producing. I don't think I deserve a paycheck. I'm out. That's somebody that says, I'm taking responsibility for it. But what did Damon do? He went on to be successful in car racing and monster trucks and everything else that he's still doing to this day.
Because he controls what's controllable to him. Bad luck can happen to anyone.
Yep.
But it's about not letting it own you and almost not. Do you accept it and be a victim and just wallow? Or do you?
But get back in charge of it. It happened, but get back in charge of, if you sit on your butt and you just complain that your leg is swollen because of a car wreck versus, and I don't always agree with Google, but get on there, figure out, hey, elevation, compression, ICE, the RICE acronym, rest, ICE, compression, elevate. At least you're doing something instead of sitting there, as you say, moping about it. But at the end of the night, when you know, and I try to encourage this in our general fitness weight loss department, walking for 10 minutes a day is more than you did last week. So if you do that Monday through Friday, that's 50 minutes of exercise. And most people go, well, it's only 50 minutes. Well, that's 50 more than we had last week. But at the end of the day, when you go, boom, I got 10 minutes in today. Well, if you're sitting in your office listening to this podcast, stand up and do 10 air squats. Do that at the top of every hour. That's 80 air squats in 8 hours times your body weight. That's how many times you made your leg muscles work. You're fitter now going to bed tonight than you were yesterday. It's that rule of 1%. And you get that momentum going, and you know this better than anybody. Now everything's going right. You want to eat well. You want to exercise. You feel better. You're buying smaller clothes. People comment, you look good. You got better headspace, better clarity. And now, isn't it ironic when something does go bad, you're in better headspace because you cleaned up the whole system. Yeah. We got to get the first domino to fall, and that's responsibility.
And that first domino is so hard because, we're talking about, it's so easy. From watching someone else struggle and see bad luck, it's easy for us to say, okay, well, this is what they need to do. But when you feel the physiological emotions of it, it can blind you, and it's brutal. Mm-hmm. And when you're in it, it's like standing in a tornado while somebody's outside the tornado telling you, well, just take 2 steps forward. Yes, it's easy to say, but it's something you just have to practice. And these aren't skills. These aren't life skills that you just learn and do and that's it. These are things you have to retrain and practice, just like working out and everything else in life.
Well, and look at your Instagram. I still love it. Advocate for mental health. If people that are listening to this are struggling, please understand it. I don't swim upstream by myself. I lean in on you. I lean in on Hopper. I've got a very small network. Chris Gay, one of my dear friends, but that door's got to swing both ways. I expect you to call me at 2:00 in the morning Eastern time if you're on that slippery slope, because, I've got you on my phone list as my favorites. My phone is on silence, but if you call me at 2 a.m., it's going to ring. And you're not calling to talk about the weather. You need, and you've said this on the show previously, and I want to encourage everybody, don't peacock up. Don't think you got to be Barney Badass. Yes, as men, we can handle a lot, but you know what? We can't do it all by ourselves. And I know it's hard to find guys that, you see all the little Instagram text messages where the guys at your face look like your best friend, and behind you, they're stabbing you in the back. We've all been there. It sucks, but eventually you thwart out those people, as you and I teased about, go through a divorce and you'll find out who your true friends are.
Yeah.
And it's just the reality of it, as much as it sucks. And I've never been in a lower place in my life. But I didn't do it by myself. And I want everybody to understand that, if you're struggling, please get help.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like we're being all fluffy and soft. It's the opposite. It's the true. You got to know somebody's in your corner. Otherwise, it's a tough fight for sure.
And I love the Road to Recovery, and they do a lot for injured athletes. I love that now they have a mental health division for the riders.
Cool. So
because
cool.
It's tough, man. And look how many guys we've lost to mental health issues where we just write it off. They say, oh, it was a drug issue. What caused those issues? But like I said, don't be too proud. It is what it is.
Please.
Bad luck happens to everybody. And when you're in that tornado, it's a bitch, but
yeah, absolutely. Nope.
All right, Coach.
Appreciate the listeners hanging in there with us. Hopefully that helps. And I hope they see that you and I are just two dudes like everybody else, but always happy to help in any way. It's where I do like social media, like with a DM or something. I'll be very honest with you. I had a guy yesterday on a Saturday says, I hate to bother you on the weekend. This is what I'm dealing with. It was all based on the mental headspace. Like he got thrown a curveball. That's just unbelievable. His entire livelihood has been removed from him.
Wow, that's brutal. But
it's
nice that you could reach out to you and you could get to him. So,
but what's more important is it's not, and I don't want the listeners to think that I need a yada boy. I love the fact that he had the balls enough to pick up and to reach out. That's what I love.
It makes you strong, not weak, to do that.
Amen.
It takes a strong person to ask for help, to reach out. Whereas, in the past, it may have been a peer. Oh, he's a wussy. No,
that's right.
Stronger person admit it. Stronger person reaches out.